Good morning, everyone. I had an interesting morning with the herd when I got here, and I wanted to share it. Of course, I didn't get any video because I was in it. I did get a few pictures, which I'll maybe share in the comments or something. Anyway, when I got here, all the horses came out and came right to me. And then I noticed that Hudson and Zoe were just off in the corner, and all of a sudden they both popped their heads up. And so they're discerning, assessing. They sense something. They're pausing and taking a look and determining whether or not it's a threat, whether or not there's a course of action that they need to take, what they need to do. And so I noticed that, so this is kind of twofold around discernment and assessing and processes. So I noticed that Zoe, they both looked for quite a while, and then Zoe returned to graze, but Hudson was still heightened, still aware, still discerning, still assessing. And it's just that reminder that we all do so in our own time, right? Some of us take longer to discern what, if any, action is needed. Some of us take longer in our processes, and that's okay. There's no rule that says, okay, if you're assessing if there's a threat, you need to do it within 2 minutes. Or if you're processing something that happened, or some information, or, you're trying to figure out your next steps for starting a business or promoting your business or whatever it is, there's no hard and fast rule on how long it needs to take you. And I find that the harder I try to push to process and get to the next phase, the longer it takes. So often I just need to allow myself the time that it takes, because if I'm not, and I'm busy pushing, I'm making it take longer. But for us humans, it can be very hard to sit in the unknown, in that space of the unknown, and wait. And so this is something that horses really teach us. So the next thing that happened was I was sitting here, and Hudson came over and was just standing right here, right over top of me, and then moved to this side and was off in the distance. So in the field across the road, there's cows. And so I don't know if they were moving closer. I can't see them. And so he might have been discerning what is the movement happening over there. But so a few times in his discernment, he would come down to me, nose at me, whatever, check in with me, then go back to discerning. And then he stopped and grazed, and then he wandered off up around the back of the barn. And there's a lot of stuff back there that horses won't eat. There is grass, but it's mixed in with a lot of stuff that horses won't eat. And I notice he's been venturing back there more often in search of food, because there's a lot more poo back there than normal. But anyway, I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? And so this is the thing. Yes, we can be looking for meaning in these things that horses do. And sometimes it's just a horse being a horse. And other times it sparks an awareness in us. For me, when I sit here with my journal, or with my notepad, oh, and there he goes. things come to me that ordinarily wouldn't have come to me. So this is where I say that horses help us get in touch with our intuition. If we're willing to listen, I could sit here and I could say, oh, well, that's just my ego mind making up whatever, blah, blah, blah. And in doing so, I would miss the amazing wisdom that wants to come through, whether it's from me, my higher self, from the horses. I shouldn't say I don't know. I want to say I don't know and I don't care. But more of what it is, it's not important where it comes from. What's important is that I'm getting the message. I'm getting what I need to hear. I'm getting maybe what others need to hear and am called to share. Because it's rarely ever just for me. And so the message that I got was, even when you're discerning, so whether you are worrying, assessing, whatever, when you're in that space of discernment, the words "don't marinate in it" just came. Take time to pause, check in, right? So with this, what I mean is, often we can get into like a spiral, or a spinning, maybe is more accurate. And I know for me, as someone who definitely overthinks a lot of things and can get caught in the mental spinning in my mind, it's important to take a moment to pause, even if it's just like, oh, okay, I'm noticing that I'm in this space. Take some deep breaths. Stop and, play with your dog, pet your horse, look outside at nature, whatever it is, just to sort of get out of that for a minute so that you don't just spin in it. And there's nothing to say that you can't pause, look outside the window, watch the birds, watch the squirrels, whatever, and then go back to the discerning, whatever it was that you were discerning. But so the other thing is to be sure to, when you're in that discernment, don't just act from that place. So especially if you are in a space of fear, worry, what was the other? Apprehension. Whatever that sort of heightened response is, you don't want to act from that space. You want to do something to bring your nervous system back into your natural resting state. So whether that's a couple of minutes of mindfulness, whether that is doing some EFT tapping, whether that is just doing some breath work, whatever it is, watching a video of horses grazing. And this is one thing I love about coming to the horses, is they help us help us come into that natural resting state, and so that we know what that feels like, because a lot of times as humans we've forgotten what that feels like, or we think that we need to go and get a massage for an hour or take a vacation to an all-inclusive for a week in order to come back into that resting state, and that just isn't accurate. Yes, those things can be helpful, but we can also learn to bring ourselves into that natural resting state anytime. And so it's important to, before you take action, before you go and explore new ideas, new paths, new areas, new steps, especially if you're unsure of them or it's unknown, because we tend to have a fear of the unknown. Maybe fear isn't quite the right word. Anyway, So to come back into that natural resting state and take action from there, because when we're in the space of worry, fear, apprehension, and kind of doing the letting our mind spin, and we take action from that point, from that perspective, that emotion, that whatever, that becomes the lens or the filter through which we experience the new whatever. And so if you already have worry about the unknown or the lack of control about what's going to happen, or fear or whatever, and you take a new step or a new action, it's going to be led by that. And we know that doesn't always lend the best outcome. And so when we come into our natural resting state first, then we're better able to discern if that's the action that we want to take, what action we want to take. We can better hear our own inner wisdom, because it's really hard to hear that when you're in a state of fight or flight, when you're in a state of fear, whatever. And the other thing is, when we're in a natural resting state, then we are better able to feel, sense, know, see the resonance, and whether what next step we're thinking of or being called to, or what next opportunity or whatever arises, we're better able to feel the resonance of that, to feel whether or not that is aligned for us, whether it's meant for us, whatever verbiage you want to use. And we can't do that if we operate from that initial phase. And so I was just thinking that horses do this sometimes. You'll see them, they'll lift their head up and then they'll take off. So they are in that discernment and they take action. But they're not in that discernment. They're not always in a place of fear. And the big thing with horses is, even if they are experiencing fear or whatever emotion, they're not in judgment of it. They just feel it, respond. And you'll notice they don't discern, realize that there is a cougar after them and they need to take action, and then they just run and run and run and run and run. If you watch them, they'll run and they'll stop and they'll discern, and then they'll either run again or they'll run, stop, and then return to grace. So they come back to that natural resting state. So I just wanted to share that. Hopefully that resonates with you. If you have any questions about it, I would love to hear you guys' feedback. Like I said, this literally was just journaling about this. And as I was journaling, all of the horses left. It was like, okay, lesson complete. Thank you. And so I still didn't even fully explore it. I just wrote down the notes of what was initially coming and felt called to go live. So that's what I'm doing. Sometimes action is inspired, and that's the action that you want to take. So whether this resonates with anybody or not, but like I said, if you have questions, you want to explore this a little bit further, comment below. Let's have a discussion on this, because I know for me, and that's part of why going live is it helps. I'm a verbal processor, and so for me it helps having conversations even just sharing with you guys and whatever comes out of my mouth. And I was like, oh yeah, that really makes sense, or whatever. And so it really helps me process. It helps me integrate the lesson. It helps deepen the learning. Yeah, so it's been a lot around integration in the last few months. And yeah, so that just totally helped me. That's part of my integrating, is talking about it to help the lesson, the ideas, the whatever go from the mental and actually like take them and feel them in my body and know them and know that I've gotten the message, that I've gotten the learning. Yeah. So that's it. I am going to go and now do all my horse chores, that fly masks and all that kind of stuff. So have a great day, everyone. Look forward to hearing any questions or comments. Bye-bye.